today. I'm here with Miss Lindsay Adler. She's a New York-based photographer, as I said a minute ago. She's taken time out of her busy schedule today to chat with us about some of the amazing things that she's doing and involved with, and just photography in general. I want to get an idea of what life is like from the standpoint of a hotshot New York photographer. So...
Oh, God.
So this is what we're going to be talking about. So, Lindsay, let's talk about your background a little bit first. So you went to school. You're classically trained. You went to Syracuse University. How was that? And did you know that you were going to be a photographer before you started attending university?
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so I was a huge nerd in school, which I think many photographers can relate to. Yeah. We're a nerdy bunch.
Yes, we are.
And I actually I didn't even take art in school because I was such a nerd. I was like, okay, I need to be like a doctor or a lawyer or something, something that all this hard work in school would pay off for. And when I was 13 or 14, I picked up a camera, and it was just a natural fit. It was just me through and through. And so I actually started my business when I was 15. And because I've always had that entrepreneurial spirit, so I figured if I'm good at it and I can make money from it, why not? So my mom helped me start my business. So my mom was actually my business partner. And so from 15 and throughout high school, I photographed upperclassmen. And so I did high school senior portraits. And then after the high school senior portraits, it was families and weddings and all that stuff. So once I was getting ready to graduate, I was like, you know what? I already can make money at this. I love it. And my mom was a really good example. My mom does not like her job. And she never has.
Uh-oh.
And so she said, whatever it is that you love, if you're doing what you love, it's not work in the same way. It's not working for someone else. It's not working for someone else's success. It's for you and your passion. So when I graduated, I decided I was going to do photography. It's what Mom said would be the best thing to make me happiest in life. And my mom is very wise.
And what they say? They say you'll never work a day in your life as long as you're doing something you love, right? So,
and I work my butt off, but it's okay.
It's not really work because it's like it's fun. It's like you're getting paid to do something that you're excited about. So it's different than making donuts every day at 4 a.m., right?
Well, and it's one of those things too. Is when you work for yourself, it can be the hardest thing because all of the responsibility falls on you, but it's also the most rewarding thing because all of the rewards come to you. You're feeding the labors of your love. It's basically building yourself and your career baby. That's what I call it.
Yeah.
I have a baby, but I have a career baby.
I love
it. All the time.
I love it.
But yeah, for school, I went to Syracuse University because I looked at art schools, but I'm not hating on art schools. But it looked like they didn't really prepare people to be successful. They prepared them to create beautiful art, but not necessarily succeed at making that their livelihood. And that's the opposite of what I wanted. So I went to Syracuse because I actually ended up getting a degree in business, photography, and then also political science. And I did that for the writing part, for the political science. So I knew that success was much more than the photography. And so actually when I was... I think I was like 16. I kind of started to decide, you know what, this is probably what I want to do for a living. So I was very blessed that so many photographers are really willing to help and answer questions. So any professional photographer I encountered, whether they were famous, whether they were just a person in my town, I said, I want to be a photographer when I grow up. What's one piece of advice you can give me? And they all, the most common response is, don't go to art school, get a business degree. Because if you're successful at business, it doesn't necessarily matter how good your photography is, which somewhat true.
It's unfortunate, but yeah, true. It's true in marketing too, as you know. I know you wrote a book on social media marketing and all that. So you could have the greatest photographer in the world that doesn't know how to market himself, and no one will ever hear about him. And conversely, you could have a crappy photographer that is just, point and click on auto or P mode all the time and not really doing creative, high caliber work, but knows how to market themselves, and everyone will think, wow, what a great person. It's unfortunate.
Right. And I respect those people for their business acumen and their success and knowledge for marketing. just you won't hear me ever. If it was people that exist, you won't hear me compliment their photography. I'll compliment their business mind, and then just leave the photography part out of it, because I
love
see
it.
a lot of this.
So let's talk about the writing piece of it a little bit. So you've written a couple of books now. I've got a list here. You've written a linked photographer's guide to online marketing and social media, something that's near and dear to my heart. You wrote Fashion Flair for portrait and wedding photography. And you've got a new one, or actually you were another one called Shooting in Shitty Light. That's SH, not shooting in the city light. So tell me, so these are awesome books, and I will link to these definitely in the blog post for this episode. But tell me about the Shooting in Shitty Light one. Where did that come from? You just trying to be controversial? What's going on here?
Well, part of the reason I decided to do the title was, that Samuel L. Jackson narrated book, Go to Sleep.
Yes, yes.
So I was like, that made me laugh. So that's why I was inspired. But the real reason that I did it is, the first book I did was on social media because I found that I wish that book had existed for me so I could learn how to grow online. I had to figure that out myself. And then one of the things I picked up along the way with my business is that when I started using fashion techniques in my work, it helped me grow, it helped me be a better photographer. So I wrote a book on that. So I was kind of progressing, what are the books I wish existed when I was growing to save me time and save me, a lot of effort. And so for the third book, I was trying to figure out, okay, really this time, instead of, stumbling across a concept, really thinking, what is the number one book I wish when I started off existed? And this was it. I was a portrait and wedding photographer, and I was constantly encountering situations where I'd walk into the room or walk into the situation, and my heart would race in horror at how bad the light was, and the fact that I was overwhelmed because I didn't know what to do with it. And my job as a photographer, I can't complain about it. I just have to find a solution. And so I went through a lot of pain, a lot of suffering, a lot of jobs where I didn't do a good job because it was shitty light that I didn't know how to handle. So the book that I wrote, and I co-wrote it with my friend Eric Valland, and the book that we wrote was the top 10 worst lighting situations and then how to handle it simply. Because my eyes would just glaze over when people would start getting too complicated and 5 flashes off camera, 2 to light the ceiling, 1 and it would just make me
the lighting ratios and this and inverse square law. Yeah, right, yeah.
It doesn't need to be that complicated. So that was what that book was for, just because I wanted to help people not go through the suffering that I did starting my career.
Love it. And then another one you've got is this one. There's another one that's coming out called Creative 52, right? What's that about? Is that 50 taking a shot, being creative every week, or what are we talking about here?
Yeah, so that's basically the idea. The reason this started is after college, I went to London to be a fashion photographer.
Nice. And
I got a meeting with this big editor at a big magazine. And so I just started over in London. So I figured this was my in. Like, this meant that I was going to be successful, and this was it. This was the start of my career. And so I met with this guy, and I brought him my portfolio, and he looked through the entire thing. And he didn't say a word, and at the end he passed the book back to me, and he looked me in the eyes, like straight in the eyes, and said, I would start again. I would do your portfolio over from scratch. And I wanted to die. Yeah. Probably the worst thing you could ever hear. And the reason he said this, and I was able to ask him why, and he said that my pictures were pretty and all. They were well composed and well lit and all of that stuff. But he said that I blended in with the crowd. There was nothing unique about my work. There was nothing eye-catching. And in the scheme of it, if you're trying to succeed in this world, the bare minimum is having the techniques down. But after that, it's standing out from the millions of people that want to be photographers. He's like, I look at 10 photographers a week. They all blend in unless you've got something new to offer. And the same thing, if someone's looking for a wedding photographer, if everyone's work looks the same, you just blend in. So that next year, I, instead of just doing client shoots, which sometimes are boring, and you're just kind of, for me, I was shooting lookbooks or, basic model shoots. Once a week, I gave myself an assignment to shoot something more creative. And so all the work that people praise me for now did not exist before I had that harsh criticism.
That's
So I was
great.
able to actually give myself a new portfolio very quickly. And I actually turn over my work, most of it. I would say 75% of my portfolio is new almost every single year.
That's
So,
great. So that's one of the things I want to talk about. So you talked a little bit about your transition from being a high school. You were in high school and also shooting the upperclassmen, and then moving on with your mom's encouragement into being a professional sort of portrait and wedding photographer, and then now a successful fashion photographer. How do you make that transition from weddings and portraits to fashion? What was the catalyst? Was it like getting meetings with key people? How did you do that?
um, so I started off by the best thing that college was for me was, the business was good, but the photography part wasn't about learning techniques. It was forcing myself to try everything. So at the end of my career in college, I had done food photography and product photography and portraits and photojournalism. And at the very end, I had a class that taught me fashion photography, kind of the masters of it. Mm-hmm. So it was I got bit by the fashion bug, and I loved it because it was the closest thing to fine art, but it fit me better because I was able to have, visual goals and purpose and all of that stuff. So long story short is I was running my portrait business, and I started to use some of these fashion techniques. And then I discovered that I really wanted to do fashion photography in New York. And so what ended up happening is I would reach out to people in New York City and pitch ideas. I have an idea for a shoot that looks like this, and I would put together a mood board. So I'd have ideally what the hair and makeup would look like, and ideally the model and the clothing and the location. And so I just started to test with people. I started to test with hair and makeup, and I convinced some agencies to send me models. And this doesn't have to do with me having amazing work or anything at the time, because if you saw my work, that was not the case. I had just regular portrait work. But what I found is a lot of agencies just wanted to see that you have pretty portraits of women, basically. And so I was able to get them to send me girls. And so I built it. Once I had some good models, I was able to get some good hair and makeup. Once I had good hair and makeup and models, I was able to get good clothing, and then able to reach out to publications. So the big thing that helped me transition is actually my wardrobe stylist. So I met my wardrobe stylist on the place that many people are like, what? I can't believe it. I met her on Model Mayhem.
Nice. I was going to ask you about that. Wow.
My amazing wardrobe stylist that I work with on almost every project to this day. And we ended up kind of growing together. But for her job, she already had all the connections. She already knew publications. She already knew celebrities. She already had the connections with the clothing companies and whatnot, the designers. And so once I proved myself to her, meaning we did a shoot together, I was professional, she liked the images, I respected her, I was timely, all of that, then she loved working with me. And so then she would say, well, let me introduce you to this person. And, well, I've got a contact at this magazine. And so it's not who you know as far as oh, my uncle is, this guy. It's right. Who you make yourself known to. I was a good business person, and I held up my end of the bargain and put myself out there, tried to connect with different people. And you only need a couple well-connected people to let that door open for you.
Yeah.
And so that was it.
I love it. That's golden advice. And one of the key things that I picked up from what you were just saying is having a good team. And a lot of photographers, by definition, photography, especially hobbyists, tend to be solo, right? They're like, I'm going to take my camera and my lenses. I'm going to go out and shoot my pictures. I'm going to post-process them and post them to my social networks. But it's not a collaborative effort. And it sounds like what you're saying is you've got a team of really good people behind you, both on the networking side and on the actually creating the image that help you bring your vision sketch, your vision board to life, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I couldn't do anything that I did alone at all because, first of all, hair and makeup, I suck at that. I tried to do that myself. And then I don't know how to express it. So I'll tell my hair and makeup, the mood that I'm looking for. And then she can bring her talent and her vision to the table. And the same thing with the hair. And so, a lot of my favorite images, I am overall kind of the coordinator of the vision and almost like an event coordinator. I bring everybody together. I put the right ingredients and try to keep the right environment to help us produce together. But I'm kind of the overseer, but nothing would happen without all the pieces. And so that's why I try and my social media and on my Facebook to credit these people, because there's no way that it's all me.
Yeah.
And I know this because a lot of times too, when I lose pieces of the puzzle, if somebody wasn't on point that day, or one member of the team I usually work with is gone, it's not the same.
Yeah.
So I know that it's not all me.
I love that. Yeah, it's a group effort, which is awesome. So let's transition this a little bit. I want to talk about, you and I were talking about before I started recording this, that you sort of present to me as one of the leading edge evolving photographers. Because there's some photographers that are like, you know what, video, I'm not doing that stuff, whatever. Just like in the old days, it was like film, digital is not, whatever. I'm a film shooter. I'm a real photographer, But you seem to have embraced all this stuff, from the social media aspect to getting the word out about your stuff to even your work itself. I was looking at some of the videos on your site. Amazing stuff, So where did that come from? Are you just pushing the envelope? Did a client say, "Hey, Lindsay, do something with video for me because we want to put it in the mall"? Where did all that stuff come from?
I think that I've always, since I, began working professionally, just like I just told you, I'm a photographer, but I'm more than that. It's something even above that, in the sense that I'm an image maker, and I'm a coordinator of a concept. And because I'm an image maker and I'm coordinating a concept and a creative director, that doesn't just have to be with still photography. And so a few years ago, I was looking at some videos, like Louis Vuitton ads, and I came across this one director. I believe you'd say his name, Bruno Avellan, something like that. And I saw his work, and I was speechless. Like, I didn't have I couldn't even describe it. It's emotionally engaging. There's storytelling, but without being too direct. It's eye candy, but with a purpose. And so, although he's he works in commercial realm, and he does ads for Samsung, and he does ads for Louis Vuitton and all of that. It is art first and foremost, but then it's tied into a brand. And I loved that. And I was so inspired, I wanted to try video, because I realized, I'm just as attracted to the moving images that he creates as I am to still photography. So I actually began kind of backwards from what you would think. I began directing before I began shooting, because again, I was a coordinator of vision. So what I did is I reached out to some directors online. I did the good old-fashioned Craigslist and Google searches to find people that had directed or had done some DPing, the director of photography, shooting using the camera there, for a variety of things. Like, I found some guy that had done some Ralph Lauren ads. I watched the credits at the end, and I reached out to him, and I just kept asking. And what I realized is it never hurts to ask. So I asked a ton of people, and a lot of these people, just like me, you get the bills paid with the boring stuff often, but you live for the creative stuff. And so a lot of these amazing people I reached out to said yes, because they're doing all the bill paying stuff, but don't get as much of the creative. So I was able to direct several beautiful pieces right off the bat, because I didn't have to know at that point what kind of camera that is or exactly what piece of gear that is, but I could explain what I wanted the shot to look like, what I wanted it to accomplish, what I wanted the lighting to be. And so I take all those pieces and I could direct something. Now, maybe because I'm a control freak, I like to shoot a lot myself, because I like to be behind that camera, and I like to sometimes just holding it and seeing the shot in your hands changes what you want. So it started off purely personal projects, and then it transitioned to the fact that, for example, last season, one in particular, a fashion designer, had seen my fine art film somewhere online and said, "Can you do a fashion film for me? And what we're going to do is we're going to use our new pieces for this new collection. We're going to play it huge on a screen at Fashion Week when we introduce our collection. And as soon as it ends, we'll have the models walk down the runway." And so I was able to do pieces like that. That was great. And then, of course, the stuff that pays the bills a lot for me are actually kind of like fashion portraits, or they're basically branding images for celebrities and athletes that they'll say, okay, this is the vision or the message I want to communicate about myself. So we'll shoot it, but while we're there and we have the hair and the makeup and the wardrobe, it is definitely value added for me to be able to say, you know what, let me just mic you up and let's film a couple video clips that you can use for promo or put on your website.
Totally.
Or while we have this great set and we're just shooting shoes for an ad, let's also do a 30-second clip that you can use to introduce your brand. So it's value added. Even if I don't charge that much extra, you can get 2 productions from me instead of 1. And let me tell you, putting these productions together, if it were separate days and paying for everything again, it's a lot cheaper if you can try to get both done at once.
Well, let's talk a little bit about your where inspiration comes from, because looking at your site, it's just like one image after another of like, okay, she's going in this direction, now she's going it all looks great, but where do these ideas come from? You're sitting in a cab on the way to dinner and you're like, I want to do this, and then you sketch it out and do it, or like, what's the genesis?
It's funny because I didn't actually consider myself creative at all, even after I was a working photographer, even doing fashion photography at all, until maybe a couple years ago, because I can't draw, I can't paint, I can't do arts and crafts. I'm not like, I never sketch ideas in that kind of way.
Yeah.
But
you're not a scrapbooker? Come on.
I don't have any. The photography's it, but
yeah.
That's not so bad, right? But what I realized is I didn't think I was creative because I had a process. So it seemed easy because I could keep doing it over and over again. So if I could summarize my process more or less, what I'll do for every shoot is I'll pick one thing that I know is certain. Like my wardrobe stylist will show me a dress. We have to do a shoot that fits this dress. Or she'll show me an individual, a model or a celebrity, and tell me a little bit about them. Or I'll find a picture on Pinterest of lighting that I love. And basically I'll pick the one element, whether it's the hair, the makeup, the wardrobe, the location, the lighting, the subject, the Photoshop effect, whatever it is. And I'll look at that, or the location even, and I'll look at that and try to figure out, like dwelling on it, what kind of words come to mind? What kind of movies come to mind? If I have that location, what kind of dress would a model be wearing? What kind of story could I see in that location or that dress? What do I like best about it? Okay, I like movement. So what kind of shot could I do with a movement? With that kind of movement, what location could it be in? So basically I pick one thing and I build on it, and I start writing down words that come to mind when I see that one piece. And I'll look them up on Pinterest, and I'll look them up online. So I did a shoot a couple weeks ago where the theme was Golden Goddess. Okay, so Golden Goddess, how do I build this? Okay, well, the goddess part, reminds me of Queen. And so I was able to reach out and direct my wardrobe stylist to get kind of crowns and headdresses, and then golden, of course, have everything be gold. And then I was able to build a metallic set, which was cheap. It's actually a shiny poster board glued onto V-flats. Nice. Gold shiny materials, and goddess, I want somebody that had a very regal look, long lines, long neck. So I just start with something like a title or a word, and I build from there. And of course, having that creative team, I show my wardrobe stylist the things I like, and she goes, I've got the perfect designer for that. And she brings up a bunch of things, and I say, yes, that's exactly the direction to go, and she'll go that way. And then I'll explain to makeup, okay, I need something that's shiny, it's rich, I need gold hues, and then she takes that in her direction. So yeah, the ideas just come from starting with one thing and exploring the different possibilities. But the most important part is whatever idea I pick out, I've got to be able to do it.
Yeah.
It's got to be something that I can afford to build. I can't pick something that's too big of a production or too expensive. So I bring it back down, not down in a bad way, but I bring it back into the realm of what I'm best able to create. That's
really cool. Now, I'm gonna wrap this up, but I want to get an idea of what the back end of the Lindsay Adler Enterprises sort of look like there. Because I'm looking, when I was researching for this interview, you've got a store, you got a blog, you got workshops, you got all this stuff going on. You're shooting, so you can't possibly be doing this by yourself, of course. So is there a team there that's handling all that stuff for you, or do you just like work 50 hours a day?
All of the above. Right now I'm in my apartment, so this isn't the real behind the scenes. I have a studio in Chelsea, and I have a studio manager, Jeff, who handles everything that I can't or that I need to, helping me organize, calling and setting things up. And then behind me, actually, is Becky. She's my intern. And so whenever I have shoots where I need something set up or I need her to purchase something, she'll take care of that. And then she helps train other assistants. When I'm done with the shoot and she'll back things up for me, I'll select my favorite images and she organizes for the retoucher and make sure it's up to the standards that I want for a retoucher. I mean, just anything and everything kind of these two handle. Got someone handling my taxes. I actually recently hired my mom to handle all the administrative work.
Nice. And mom's like, really nice, yes, it all comes back.
Exactly. She helped me start my business, and now I'm able to hire her to handle, setting up the workshops and things like that. And Becky will help with workshops. And I the rest I contract out. I have a graphic designer. I have a guy that does my web and store management, helps me with some stuff for social media, who helps kind of on retainer monthly. I have a guy that I regularly hire to help me film and edit behind the scenes. So about 18 months ago, I was completely a one-man show with no help, no interns, no studio manager, no nothing. But what I saw is that I was trying to hold on to my money too closely because I was working so hard, but then I couldn't make more money and I couldn't grow and I couldn't pursue different projects that I wanted to do. So I started contracting people out, and it helped me grow exponentially. So I'm able to do all those things Zeke listed. Like Jeff helps me coordinate creation of apps. I have a couple iPad apps, and I work on my book stuff and educational videos. So in the end, it's still about the team and knowing that you can't do it all yourself. And I think photographers, we're definitely control freaks. I mean, that's why we like photography. We control the frame. We control the people. We control the lighting. We control everything. And sometimes you only grow by letting go.
Yes, I love that. That's a good title for this interview. Grow by letting go. See, and one of the things that I'm getting is I'm hearing, like, even your shoots, you're kind of at the center where you're the puppet master, and you're like, okay, this is going over there, and you're pulling all this stuff together, and it extends out now. It seems like you've applied that sort of methodology to what you're doing in your business as well. You're at the center, kind of calling the shots, but you've got a bunch of really capable people around you helping with the bits and pieces, and so that you can make something greater than the sum of its parts. Which is really awesome.
Definitely. I always have a million ideas, and I always have to figure out which one is the best one.
Yes.
And then call on everyone else to help me out with them.
I love it. So where would you like the audience to go to sort of check out your work and these books that we mentioned in the beginning and all things Lindsay Adler?
Sure. In social media, I'm active on Facebook. I mean, if you search Lindsay Adler Photography, you'll find me. And I am on Twitter at Lindsay Adler. But probably the place to see the most updates and what I'm doing regularly would be my blog, which is blog.lindsayadlerphotography.com. And there's a link on there to my portfolios, and there's a link on there to the store. It's kind of the hub for everything that I do. And if you need to find me on any social media link, you can find me there.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, it's and I would definitely recommend to the listeners and the viewers of this video to go head over there and check out some of that work, because it's amazing, especially those videos. Your videos are amazing as well, and the blog is behind the scenes stuff is really cool. So thank you for taking the time to do this. It's been a great interview, and we'll talk to you soon.